Hello everyone and welcome back to Backlot Banter. My name is Tucker Hazel and today I'm joined by my decidedly unfantastic co-host Tanner Dykstra. But he's going to do a good job today, I trust him on this one. We're here to talk about the Fantastic Four, the first steps, and give you our thoughts on the latest and, frankly, just obviously greatest Fantastic Four movie. It's not even close.
Not a lot of stiff competition in that regard.
But we're here to give you our thoughts, and of course, if you have seen the film and want to talk to us about it, you can leave your thoughts in the comment section. You can join our Discord server. You can leave a like and comment and subscribe and all of these things. Tanner.
Yes.
Fantastic Four, the first steps. What do you think about it?
Oh, Tucker, I was very excited for this movie. I was very sold on a lot of the things that they were showing to us in trailers and things of that nature. So my expectations were higher than average, I would say, going into an MCU film in the last few years.
I think that's fair.
I think that there are things in Fantastic Four First Steps that I really like and it really took me by surprise. That were well executed, perhaps better than a lot of the recent MCU entries that we've reviewed on this channel. I also think there are some pretty glaring issues that I have that really like sway my view on the overall movie. And so I've ebbed and flowed since I saw this yesterday afternoon about like what my thoughts on the film are. And hey, spoilers! I saw your letterbox rating. So if anything, I'm hoping to, of course, discuss the film with you, but maybe sap some enthusiasm about the film from you as well.
Yeah.
Perhaps drill
That's
through
what we should
you and
call,
absorb some of you.
That's what we should call this channel.
Oh, sapping enthusiasm?
Yeah, because this seems to be how it goes. No, but it'll be an interesting conversation because I don't have any major criticism of this movie. I think this is one of the top 3 maybe clearest directorial visions in the MCU. I think that it is supremely well crafted. It feels incredibly real and well realized. I was completely blown away by this movie. I think the imagery is striking. I think the performances are fantastic. The personality of the character shines through. It's so focused. There's not extraneous plot lines. It takes a totally new angle on the superhero genre by leaning totally into the corniness of the world and the everyone loving Fantastic Four, and that obviously pairing very nicely with the colorful color palette and the 60s aesthetic and vibe. It's nostalgic in its own way for itself, and I think that self-referentiality ends up feeling very surprisingly genuine, right? I think it could come off as obnoxious, and I was so sold on this group of characters because Tanner, I watched the 2015 Fantastic Four the night before I watched this, and I hadn't seen that movie since it came out. That is actually the first movie I ever reviewed on YouTube, and now almost 500 reviews later, we're getting another Fantastic Four movie. And night and day. And I know you're not going to disagree with that, but
Fantastic Four 2015 is one of the worst and most dysfunctional Hollywood films ever made.
I agree with that, especially having recently watched it. But my biggest praise about this movie is that the characters are all in every single scene together. This is a family unit movie. The characters are always talking to one another. Their dynamics with each other are clear. The movie establishes its own history and their origin story in a really fun and succinct way, but explores it thoroughly enough to where I don't feel like I'm missing something, like maybe I did with something like Superman. I think this is just high marks across the board. It's one of my favorite MCU entries. I think it's one of the strongest and most confident and concise and focused. I was really blown away by it.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree on you on a lot of those points. I don't think I have necessarily anything to refute that you brought up. So perhaps we'll have more common ground here than I came into the video thinking. But let's get a couple of things out of the way that I've seen a lot of people just across the board being like, yeah, it's good. The production design and cinematography are like a definite step up, and perhaps some of the best in the MCU. Things to come out of Marvel Studios since Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever.
I think it even surpasses that though, because there's a lot more practical sets in this, and also just aesthetically. Even though I love Guardians, of the way Guardians looks, it is more colorful than other Marvel movies. this is like 6 times more colorful than that. I mean, the moment that really, really floored me was when Reed walks into his lab and there are 3 distinct lab settings that are bright blue, everything is blue, bright red, everything is red, and bright yellow, everything's yellow. And you've got all these gizmos, and Johnny's got this record player that also has like this bubble over it that they're framing his head through, and there's these big like angular windows and sweeping high ceilings, and I'm like, holy shit. I mean, like, genuinely, if this was in, like, it reminded me of, like, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like
sure.
Stark whites and bright primary colors and gigantic sets. I'm like, no, this was not, they did not skimp on this at all. This was, like, focused, and they delivered on it.
It is a definite good-looking movie most of the time. They definitely pack a lot of the more stunning VFX elements into the trailer, and you watch those on the big screen, and you're like, yeah, they're awesome. This looks great. I think there are also areas, as there often is, with movies like these, where they fall through a little bit. Like there are some things where they seem a little bit undercooked, a little bit unreal, perhaps. I don't really know.
Sure.
I mean, if we're going full spoilers in this thing, I don't think it's really a spoiler.
We both like the movie. Tanner might like it a little less. We're here to explore the themes and characters and plot points of the film. So spoilers from here on out. Go see it.
Yeah.
Choose for yourself. Don't let our sick, twisted movie review minds sway you.
It is not a spoiler, I think, to acknowledge that Sue is pregnant and then obviously gives birth in the film. And there's some CGI baby stuff that's like a little yeeshy.
It's an interesting mix because there's also some real ass baby stuff.
There's some real baby,
and then there's a couple of CGI baby shots, but I'm like, whatever.
And I also think that the whole third act sort of reverts back to a grayness a little bit that I found a little bit disheartening, especially given what the rest of the movie looked like. Anyway,
you're definitely right about that, and as we get into more deeply into the third act, I want to explore this a little more. But I do think it makes sense from like this world that has been so hopeful up to this point, that hope has been drained away. All the life in the city has been evacuated. And so shifting the color palette, I think from a creative angle makes sense.
I understand that.
Yeah,
but
I
I always hedge that in my mind. I was like, yeah, but also like you don't want your city destruction to be like brightly colored and poppy like the rest of the movie was. Like aesthetically, you want it to feel a little different for the audience. But so should we talk about the first family?
Well, first, we're just continuing a little bit on the production elements of it.
Oh, yeah.
I was also really, really impressed by the color grading, the lighting, the framing, the cinematography of this movie. I was consistently wowed by the shot composition of this film, and especially the way they use key lighting and backlighting. There are so many moments where a character is perfectly framed with one bright light coming behind them, and they'll block it for a second, and it'll like shine through like the crack between their arm and their body.
Absolutely.
And I'm just like, this is like, you don't really usually see this in this kind of Marvel movie, or like a character will be framed like perfectly centered with like the moon behind them, and I'm like, this is like genuinely stunning imagery. Like and the lighting when things are like dark, but you can still very clearly see the faces. It's very warm lighting. It feels like someone's like turned on a lamp in the room, or there's like a fireplace. Like it feels so well lit and realized. Like I texted a couple of people last time, like, guys, this is a real ass movie. Like this is no, for my taste, like Hollywood fuckery, cheapery. Like it feels so well shot and realized and lit. I was just blown away by it.
I mean, I think that you can attribute that to like a Shakman who, at least in his MCU work, we've seen really play with like TV eras and genre conventions, and really commit to the look and vibe of 50s and 60s and 70s sitcoms and things like that. I think he is able to creatively distill the look of an era, or how an era felt like it looked, down to translating that to a filmic work, and that is true here. Of course, there as I already said, there's a lot of good cinematography and things of that nature. The stuff in space, I think, especially in the spaceship when Sue is giving birth and she's sort of floating in midair, and we have to we're bending ourselves around black holes and giant ships and things like that. That looks good. But there's also shots of Ben Grimm walking down the street. I was like, hey, this looks really good, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it just kept coming to mind, when people will, they'll drop that shitty one shot from No Way Home with Flash Thompson.
Yes.
And they'll compare it to like Taxi Driver or whatever. This is
Mhm.
way closer to Taxi Driver.
Yes, decidedly so. Like designed to be that way. I think for sure.
Yeah, and
Uh,
so let's talk about you talk about Shakman and the '60s and realizing this
Mhm.
world. The tone of the film, the setting of the film. For the first time in the MCU, we have a story entirely set in an alternate universe.
True. Earth 828.
Yeah. And that is a really bold, creative choice to reject the continuity that the rest of the MCU has had up to this point to focus in on one world, one story, one tone. It does mean that we don't have to worry about why is this one city like super 60s and colorful and like
It's the 60s.
why haven't they heard of the other like the
Mhm.
Sokovia and like all this shit like I think it does make sense from that angle. It makes it obviously and distinctly feel very different from the rest of the MCU. And I think that was maybe the thing that I had the hardest time like wrapping my head around is really how different the movie was going to be. And because of that, as I want to get into the script, how focused it was going to be, there are no attempts, because there can't be, to like shoehorn in the extra plot lines of, oh, hey, this is what happened in this other movie and there's a TV show.
There's no returning characters.
Yeah.
There is no like references or nobody's holding up a newspaper that's about the celestial in the Indian Ocean or whatever. Nothing of that nature. And yeah, I think also you say like distinct creative decision. I think that given the sea changes that we've heard Kevin Feige talk about at Marvel Studios, I think this is by design. He keeps harping on the fact that it is a no homework movie.
Correct, yeah.
I think from a number of regards, it is a way to get back in the good graces of the general public and be like, listen, Thunderbolts, people sort of liked it, but like that was a very homework heavy kind of movie.
Yeah.
This is the complete opposite, and they also
go
are
see
garnishing it
Avengers
with all these
Doomsday
other
next
things.
year, everyone.
Exactly. We'll talk about the whole post credit scene, of course. But yes, that's sort of my perspective on that. Is like by design from the outset. I think even from a studio standpoint, they're like, we don't really want this to be a connected to the previous 32 films in the universe.
Yeah, and I think it's more than that, Tanner. I think it's like the 37th. It doesn't matter. It's a lot. But let's tie this into the actual plot of the movie, because again, much like Superman, just about a couple weeks ago, this movie does its own homework within it. The movie opens on this TV montage of
Ed Sullivan show sort of take.
Yeah, it's Ted Gilbert. And Ted Gilbert, TV host, goes through the history of the 40 years of Fantastic Four, gives us a little bit of their origin, a little bit of their backstory before that, and then it primarily focuses on, and where this movie like focuses a lot of its tonal energy on how well-known and beloved of heroes the Fantastic Four are to the general public. They've gone through all these adventures. They saved us all these times, and don't we love them for it? It's really Americana. It's really, and it's also edited like a 60s TV show. You have these
little newsreels kind of thing.
Yeah, you have these newsreels. You have these split shots. You're leaning into like, this is the voice of Reed Richards, and like they'll splice over the dialogue to like
all that stuff
unrelated
is great.
people.
Yeah.
It is so well done, and it also isn't very short. I mean, this is like a maybe 7-minute.
It's a long sequence,
but I really appreciate that, because I do feel like it makes me feel like I watched that first movie that doesn't exist, because we do so thoroughly go through it, and they talk about all these exploits and we see clips of them fighting Red Ghost and fighting the Giganto and all this stuff, and that makes them feel like an established team in the way that some other skipping of origin stories might feel like, well, I don't really understand this version of this character or team. That I don't think that applies to this Fantastic Four. I'm like, no, I've seen their exploits. I understand why people appreciate them. I understand the role they fill in this culture. And so I really, really loved that opening segment. That was like full chills. Like, oh my god, they're doing it. Like I felt like Fableman just sitting there like.
So here's my thoughts on this. Yeah, a lot of that stuff is well executed and ingratiates you into the vibe and aesthetic of the film
Yeah.
from the opening minutes. I will say that for me, it went on a little long, and I think it goes on so long because, and this is sort of chipping away at the larger nest egg issue that I have that encompasses the entire film.
Sure.
Film's a little over edited, I think. I
Okay.
think there is a lot of Fantastic Four first steps on the cutting room floor at
Yes,
Marvel
that is
Studios.
true.
And
Yeah,
I
because
think
it is.
that some of those
It's
pieces,
under 2 hours with credits,
yeah,
including
it's
credits.
I mean, exactly. If you take the credits off, this thing is like an hour and 45, hour and 50 maybe,
Yeah,
which is
is
quite
it the
short.
shortest MCU movie?
That take a little research. I think the Marvel still holds that title.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Which is a film that obviously didn't involve, suffer from any editing or pacing issues itself.
Ooh.
But anyway, I think a lot of those pieces that might have been on the cutting room floor are also sort of like retroactively jam-packed into this opening sort of montage.
Yeah.
Because I'm watching these scenes of like Mr. Fantastic fighting Red Ghost and his super apes or whatever.
Yeah.
Or or fighting like Garganto or whomever or Mole Man. And I'm like, these look like clearly, fully realized sequences that, to me, pretty clearly appeared in full at some point in a previous version of this film.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, this is like way better like CGI work and direction and blocking and things like that than you would just like quickly slap together if it was going to show up for 5 seconds or whatever. So to me, that also just like tick that domino over for me from the opening minutes. I was like, oh, that is interesting. That these are clearly things that are from scenes that have been cut from the movie, presumably, if we're just fast forwarding through this. And then that trail of dominoes just kind of continued to fall for me because that was just present in my mind from the very opening. Was like, oh, I wonder what was cut out of this. Oh, I can feel some truncation going on here in the storytelling.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, like I mentioned, really sort of weighs on my thoughts on the film and a lot of the film's better moments. I think there is a bit of a fast forwarding through them to make this feel more consumable and more light for a general audience.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the intent. Ultimately, I understand. I agree that like, oh, okay, obviously a lot of stuff was cut, but as you were mentioning that, until obviously you got to how it impacted the rest of the viewing experience, I was like, but why is that a problem? Because for me, I was like, this is interesting. So 10 years ago, I reviewed Fantastic Four, and I was 15 years old. And it's like a 2-minute video.
Do the math on that?
No, it's like 1 minute and 46 seconds where I praised that movie for not being action forward and instead being about the story. And Tanner Dykstra, I will say the exact same thing here. 10 years later, time is a flat circle. This Fantastic Four movie, for me, is about the fact that they have done these escapades. They have done beaten these bad guys, and Reed has a really good sense of what all the criminal organizations are up to and things. They're very well established and experienced, and obviously people love them for it. But this film, as it stands, and the reason why I think I appreciate it and maybe connect to it a little bit deeper, is that it's much more about that human drama. That's part of the reason why I like Thunderbolts so much. That's part of the reason why I like my favorite MCU movies so much, is they're more about the human drama than these action sequences, than the bombast, than the recreating comic book moments. And this movie felt really well paced to me because it was a lot of that slice of life of the Fantastic Four sequences. I think it's more half and half in terms of like the first half of the movie is slice of life, second half is dealing with the Galactus.
We got to do stuff,
yeah. But even in that second half, they give some, I think, really solid, grounded human drama of them in the kitchen and them dealing with the stuff and arguing like and not giving Johnny the time of day and these elements that's what I was here in the movie for. Is the Fantastic Four are an interesting group of characters because of what they've gone through together, and the way that it plays into their interpersonal dynamic. And that's what this movie nails. I don't really care that they cut Red Ghost because I didn't need an early in the movie action sequence.
Sure.
I didn't. It was fun to see them recreate the first Fantastic Four scene for like literally 2 seconds, and sure, that would have been fun to see. But I understand that they're skilled. I understand that they did this. I don't need them to dive super deep into it, because what I'm here for is that interpersonal drama, is that story, is the fact that these are characters that I care about and I think are well realized by the actors. And that's what the movie, I think, put most of its effort towards.
Okay, Tucker, let me pull an Obama here. Let me be clear. I am not saying that, like, oh, this movie needed more action sequences or whatever.
Yeah, fair enough.
I am not mad that, like, John Malkovich is not in it as Red Ghost. No, that would have been pretty neat, or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like that, like I mentioned, that first scene of them sort of giving you all these like fast punchiness of like cut sequences, it set the domino off for me, like I mentioned, and I think that there is more of what you're talking about on the cutting room floor as well. I feel that. I feel some of that stuff missing, especially as we sort of want to talk about like character arcs and how much they want to give each one of the Fantastic Four something to do in the movie and something that they represent and something that they need to overcome, etc., etc. And also just the general plotting. The one moment that sticks in my mind the most, and I'm jumping forward in the narrative a little bit here. I don't know if we want to go through a beat by beat.
We're not really going through it chronologically. That's okay.
Fair enough. It is after they have returned from Galactus' ship. They give the press conference and so on and so forth. And there's this really like dark moment of the heart thing, because to his credit, Pedro Pascal, who kind of gives the best performance in this movie, IMO, I don't know if you disagree, is really like weighted upon by this decision that has confronted him and his family, but he feels like it is his to make because he is the smartest man in the world or whatever. It was like the world for the life of his infant son. And then they get into this whole thing about who is it? Is it Archimedes and the lever thing? Is that who it is?
I don't know.
I
don't know.
Yeah, it's something like that. And he's like, give me a lever big enough and a place to stand, and I will move the world.
Yeah, which I thought was really, really interesting. I like that.
It's really interesting, and it's well performed by everybody in that sequence. But then, unless I am forgetting something, it is basically he says that. There's a brief conversation between him and Sue. Then Sue like decides to go down and give a public address to the angry crowd gathered outside of the Fantastic Four Tower, the Baxter Building. And then she comes back in, and Pedro Pascal's like, "I solved it. You're a genius, Sue." I was like, I don't know. I felt like I wanted them to wrestle with this mystery a little bit more.
Yeah, sure.
I felt like the solution came too quickly after the problem was introduced.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think a lot of that intervening time was where we might get scenes of like Ben Grimm and Natasha Lyonne, who I think are severely underserved and underplayed in this film. Maybe some more Johnny Storm stuff, as he is like doing effectively like linguistic detective work in this film, which I'm like, whoa, that's a crazy plot line to give Johnny Storm of all characters. And I felt like that is just like we check in and he's like, listen to a record, and they check in again, he's like, he's listening to a record now, but now he's taping like papers to the window or whatever. I wanted more stuff there.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of Reed and Sue to this movie's credit, but perhaps everyone else feels a little bit underserved. But I don't know. Do you disagree? Do we want to spin off into a different point?
I think it's time to close my blinds a little bit.
Close the window. Oh, okay, that's smart.
And also talk about each of the family members here. Because I do disagree.
Okay.
Reed's my least favorite in the movie.
Really? Okay.
I think that characterization-wise, personality-wise, he feels the most one note. He's smart, and he's burdened by his smartness. And of course, that's the thing about Mr. Fantastic, but...
Yeah.
And maybe this is why he's also been my least favorite member of Fantastic Four for as long as I can remember, is I can't really name other character traits of Reed Richards. And
Well, he is in the comics often like arrogant, and sometimes
yeah,
the arrogance can bubble over into like him taking rash decisions because
yeah,
he's like, I know better than everyone else.
I agree.
That is
That's not in
that is
this
not an
movie.
L. No, it is not. It
No.
is rarely, if I don't think it's ever been in a Fantastic Four movie,
Mm,
because he is sort of like the male lead anchor of any of
yeah.
these movies, and you don't want to make him like super unlikable in that way.
Yeah, but I also think that they succeeded in that with Tony Stark, in that his
Yep.
arrogance he still is likable despite that. R- Reed is, I think, a little bit more closed off traditionally, and this
Hmm.
movie they do kind of invert that. And again, I think it leads to him feeling a little bit one note for me, where you
He's a
take
bit more
away
of a
the
soft
arrogance.
boy.
He, yes, he's a much softer Reed in this movie, and he's kind of just worried the whole movie.
Yeah,
Like
he's a big
doesn't
fretter.
he doesn't do much more than worry.
He's a big old apple fretter.
I think I would have wanted to see a little bit more confidence from him, a little
Sure.
bit more uh, outward courage. But instead, it's a lot. It's a lot to Pedro Pascal's credit. I think he does a good job with what he's given of the like internal thought process of the stress that he's and worry that he's taking on. But
Hmm.
again, from a writing and personality standpoint, I didn't really get that much about from Reed. Where I think the
Oh,
other
okay.
three greatly outshine him in terms of
Sure.
personality and performance.
Yeah, I'll give my thoughts on Reed, and then we can sort of go through each one,
Yeah.
go down the line a little bit. I mean, yeah, I thought that Pedro Pascal, like I mentioned, gives the best performance. I think that there is a lot of like humanity wrapped up in his worry. I mean,
Yeah.
like he is the one who is saddled, it seems, the most with the decision that is confronting the Fantastic Four. He is the one that introduces like the solutions and things like that. He is the one that like thinks of using Franklin as bait, for example, and that is something that then the rest of the team
Well, I think everyone's thinking about that a
understands.
little bit. He's the only one who says it.
Well, fair. Well, no, because there's literally a moment where Johnny and Ben are like, "Wait, what
Oh
are we
no,
talking
you know what?
about? What are we
Great
thinking?"
point. I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Great point.
I think Sue understands his thought process.
Yeah.
Again, like I mentioned, I think their dynamic is good.
Yeah.
But no, like I was just really impressed with Pedro's performance. I think he's also given the clearest arc with all of that,
Mm.
all of the things that are being that he is grouping onto his plate. You know, he has to learn to share the load a little
Yeah.
bit. I think.
Yeah.
That is like his arc of the film.
It's interesting because I think another reason why he ends up shining the least for me is he's the most insular of the four of them. He is the most
Sure.
closed off of the four of them. He's mostly in his lab alone, or when they're in a group sequence, he's very quiet and kind of keeps to himself.
Hmm.
Whereas all the other characters are talking to each other and bantering
Hmm.
and doing things together all the time. I think if I had to point to one area where, on a characterization level, I do feel like this movie is cut short, falls flat, is there is very little Reed and Ben. The Reed and Ben dynamic is
That's a good point.
implied, but it
Yeah.
is not shown. And I think that is a massive missed opportunity. And I also think that, yes, there's a lot of Reed and Sue. That I will
Hmm.
not deny. There's also not very much Reed and Johnny. And so he feels, again, kind of closed off from the rest of the team. Where, again, my biggest praise of this movie is that it's not a split. The team has to be split up, and we're following two plot lines. Right, doing shit.
Right.
Everyone is together in almost every scene of this film, and I love that dynamic and watching them all talk to one another and argue and think through these things together as a family. That's a big part of what makes this movie thematically distinct. Is this movie is very much about that family unit and how important it is to stick together and work through things together, and it reflects that on a blocking and script writing standpoint because they're together the whole time. And Reed, I think, makes the least of that time just because he's very much in his own mind, which I understand, but I think ultimately leaves him a little bit distanced. But I think everyone else benefits greatly from it. If we're talking about Ben a little bit, I think it's very interesting that, to my knowledge, outside of like comic books and cartoons in the universe, no one ever calls him the Thing.
True.
They always call him Ben, and actually, I think that's true for all of the Fantastic Four. No one ever calls The Invisible Woman or Mr. Fantastic. These names are implied in the universe. Like, people know them as that kind of because of the larger cultural connotation. But
nickname, moniker,
yeah. But when they're showing up on a TV appearance, when they're walking down the street, it's always, hey, Ben, hey, Johnny, hey, Sue. And I really like that in terms of them feeling very personable to the rest of the New York and also the world. And Ben is the one that definitely gets the most of that.
He's out on the street a lot,
and I love that.
He's the Yancey Street Kid after all.
He is, and that element of the movie, I think is the strongest part of this film, where seeing the people's love for the Fantastic Four and seeing how they respect them and treat them as a member of a community. No one ever comments on Ben's physical appearance being something that's off-putting. They're always welcoming him in and saying, "Hey, how's it going? Oh, is Sue doing okay?" Like, these kind of things. I'm like that. Like, I'm getting chills thinking. I'm like, that is, in my mind, what a good, particularly golden age superhero story is about that relationship between the respected heroes and their community. And that's why I love Spider-Man so much. That's why I love Ms. Marvel so much, is they have this connection to the community. You remember these moments in Ms. Marvel or in Spider-Man Homecoming where they're connecting to their greater community, and you're like, yes! And this movie draws that to, like, an extreme degree, because... And look, it's a little cartoony. It's a little corny. But, like, everyone in the streets with their fucking flags, and they're like, yeah, the Fantastic Four, I fucking love. They're all watching the screens like, look, a Fantastic Four.
It's also like, these are the only superheroes in this world, effectively. Like, everyone else with powers is like a supervillain, basically. But no, to talk about Ben, I like Ebon Moss-Bacharach's performance. I think he was excellent. A very good. I think he's a great casting decision, because he has this, we know him as fucking Cousin Richie. He's got this, like, tough exterior, but he's a big old softy inside, which is literally what the Thing is. Like, on screen. Like, he has a rocky exterior, but he's a really nice guy. And it's really sweet to see him, like, talking with the kids and picking up the car, and he pretends that he's gonna throw the car at them, like, all this stuff.
And it's even small things like him, like, he picks things up with, like, one finger because he doesn't want to crush it. Like, I loved him, like, picking up the cookies and, like, setting them down gently. Like, he still is a guy that more cares about treating others nicely and making sure they're okay. And it's not in the movie, but I love that line from the trailer where Sue says, "Ben's always been our rock," and I'm like, that I think shows up personality wise very, very clearly in this movie. I think on a personality level, I think for me Ben actually is the clearest. He doesn't get an arc. I think everyone else gets a clearer arc than him, or a clearer role. But as a emotional centerpiece of the film, I do think they do a really good job with the screen time they give him.
Yeah. Again, my thing with him is this, like, he has these nice moments, but where is the movement for his character? Where is like the actual substance? I would say.
Well, because they stripped out the "I'm a monster and people don't like me" because of that worry that comes with a Ben Grimm story. Usually.
Exactly. And what they do leave in is this relationship with Natasha Lyonne, which I think, again, like I mentioned already, speaks to a little bit of the editing issue, the pacing issue with this film, because they have two scenes where they talk to each other, and there is really no progression in either of these scenes.
No, they're very short.
The first one is, hey, like, it's nice to talk to you. Like, you should come by the school sometime. It's really nice. And then the last one is right before the final action sequence, and he goes to, like, the synagogue or whatever and meets her there, and he's like, hey, I came to see you. Cut away from sequence. I was like, whoa, okay, that's weird. What?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's odd. Also, I forgot she was in this movie. But then it reminded me, like, oh, that's right, because people were talking about her being she-thing, and I'm like, that's not gonna fucking happen.
Well, Fantastic Four second steps, you never know what's gonna happen.
No.
Okay, should we do Sue or Johnny? Which of the Storm siblings are we gonna do?
Johnny, because I do think that their dynamic is another one of the strong parts of the movie. I love their brotherly banter. I love them goofing off each other, and Johnny always, like, throwing food at Ben. He's like, get out of here!
Oh
Stop
yeah, I mean, their stuff is always good in these movies. Well, in the goodish movies, I would say. But, like, the stuff where he's doing flame on with the little toys, like, flame off. Like
Great
it's
moment.
good. Like
Great
the
moment.
like the cohesion and the banter between the entire team is quite strong. You know,
Yeah.
it's very funny. It's very sweet.
And also the two of them, combat wise, are the most like tested. They're the most
Yeah.
aggressive and battle hardened. We get to see them in some of these action sequences in the early parts of the film, doing a lot of saving people. I love that shot of Johnny like absorbing all the fire. I don't know if that's something he can do with his powers previously, but I thought that was really cool. And they cooperate the most in terms of combat in the film. They're always saving one another from dire circumstances, and I
Right.
really like that bond. And Johnny, I think he's the one that gets the least solo time, the least development. But I do
Yeah.
think that what they give him in this movie is actually, I think, subtly actually very well done, which is that people know him as an arrogant guy, as a guy who just loves women and loves partying and stuff, and that's what you think of when you think of Johnny Storm. But
Yeah, it's what the cinematic interpretations have been, and
Yeah, well-
by turn the comic adaptations have been. He's
Yeah.
the hothead, you know. He's like the guy who loves being a superhero, baby.
Yeah, and there's a tinge of that in this movie, but I think what is interesting is that is more something that's projected onto him than
Yeah.
it seems to actually reflect. He's got an element of that, but I think the character moments of Johnny in this movie where he tries to show people that he's more than what they understand him to be, and he's like, "Hey guys, I have an idea," and nobody listens to him, and then
that's
he's
nice.
like, "All right, I'm gonna do this myself. I'm gonna show them that I am a more meaningful part of this team, that I am smarter than you know, by doing that linguistic translation part, and also that being this element of showing that he can connect and communicate with people better than they realize that he can. I think that is suddenly a very strong character moment for him to come into his own and show people that he has this skill and has these human connection side of him that people aren't really aware of, because they just kind of like push him aside as the younger brother, as the hothead, as the womanizing guy. But he does have this softer side to him.
Yeah, I like the interpretation of the character. I think there is a little bit more going on underneath the hood that Joseph Quinn is able to convey fairly well. The fact that like he's like he likes being like an adventurer. He doesn't like being like a womanizer. He's like, I want to like go to space because space is cool.
Yeah.
I would like, but yeah. And then at the same time, they do hit the notes of like, oh, Johnny likes space, Johnny likes women, Johnny likes the sexy lady in space. I'm like, stop calling her sexy, Johnny.
Yeah.
Again, good banter there as
Yeah.
well. But I go back to my previous complaint of like the whole detective linguistic thing that avenue, that the tree that he is sniffing up feels a little bit like, we check in, he's working. We check in, he's working. We check in, he's working. He's like, boom, I cracked it.
Yeah,
and then he has this moments with the Silver Surfer, whom we have not mentioned up until this point in the film, this point in the review. And he's like, hey, listen to these listen, I figured out who you are, and listen to all these people that you like killed or whatever. And she's like, damn, I'm out of here. And he's like, I guess I did my job.
Yeah.
And then she, of course, little Deus Ex Machina, does a little save at the end.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as Johnny said, like, you make sure Franklin knows Uncle Johnny loves him or whatever. And I was like, okay, when's the Silver Surfer gonna like knock him out of the way or whatever? When's it coming? She does.
Yeah, their dynamic is very interesting. Because I think if we're going to talk about the Surfer for a bit, I think her role in the story as someone who is forced into this role to help protect her family in the past, and then has become so numb to the impact that she's having as the Herald of Galactus, and then because of Johnny and his communication and him like putting in the effort to learn her language and translate it, is given this moment of realization of the weight of that her actions have had, the impact that her actions have had. I think it's an interesting character arc for someone who is a villain. I really don't know what we call the Silver Surfer in the context of the Greater Marvel, like villain, like bad news. I don't know, but
she's bad news, all right.
She's bad news, but she's not the bad news.
She's bad news personified.
Yeah, but I think that that's very interesting, and the way that she also parallels as a mother that wants to protect, that did protect her family from death, being able to relate closer to this family unit and Sue giving birth and these things. I think she was pretty well utilized in this movie. I think her CGI is fantastic. I didn't actually mean to do that in the Fantastic Four review, but I did.
You said it in the opening as well, and I
I
raised an eyebrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
But I think especially her action sequences are some of the best in the film. There's this moment where she's surfing on the lava and is like cresting around her.
I love her surfing.
When she's surfing on the wormhole, I'm like, dude!
Yeah.
Like, there's like some
cool.
really excellent action imagery here of her using the surfboard and all this stuff. And this moment when Johnny grabs onto her surfboard and his face is reflecting the stars are shining through. I'm like, this is really, really great imagery. That I think also, again, her bond with Johnny that develops over the course of the film is something that it feels very unique for this film, of choosing Shalabal over Noran Rad and having this role again be reflective of the family unit and of motherly care for your family. I thought that was actually surprisingly well done.
Well, let's talk about motherly care a little bit. Let's talk about Sue. Perhaps the most disappointed I was in a character in this film, I think. I think, especially because in the lead up to this film, this is years ago at this point, and the film has obviously, as I've been mentioning, changed a lot, even probably in the last couple of months. But like, when this film was announced, it was sort of like, I think basically outright said that like Sue was the main character of this story. And in the film that we have received, she is not. No. She is not the main character.
I don't think there is one, really. I don't even think it's Reed.
I would say it's Reed personally, but because I think he's given like the clearest sort of arc, as I already mentioned. But Sue, I was like, what does she have to do in this movie? Like she doesn't really have an arc per se. She is given a speech to like the people, like listen, people of New York, hear my cry or whatever, which is a good scene. And Vanessa Kirby does good work outside of that, but I feel like a lot of the acting that she is asked to do is either in scenes with Reed, where their dynamic is more forefronted, or like she gives birth in this movie, and like Vanessa Kirby is good at that. And, like she has this whole thing where she's like telekinesising.
She got nominated for an Oscar because of that, didn't she?
She did. She did actually. That's a great point.
What the fuck is that movie called?
Pieces of a Woman.
Oh Jesus, yeah, I forgot. I almost forgot entirely about that one.
But she's also she has to do some like Scarlet Witch stuff of like holding my hands out and making an intense face and stuff like that. I was like, I don't know, like I was promised Sue as like the main character of this movie, and she is quite the opposite, I think. And like her characterization boils down to like she is a mother. Well, which I find a little disappointing.
She's a mother, but she's a caregiver to the team of dysfunctional guys, and that is interesting because I do think that that's the role that Sue primarily serves. Outside of like stories where she's not with the team, I do think that her wrangling everyone, calming them down, and forcing them to focus, calling them out on their bullshit, that to me is maybe why I definitely disagree that she's explicitly not the main character. I don't think there is one, but if I were to choose one, I do think she is the narrative focus of the film. I think that her pregnancy and the way that causes everyone around her to react differently and treat her differently, and that whole process with Franklin, that's the narrative thrust of the film, and then that also means that she is treating others differently and thinking about being a hero in a different way, and then that challenges everyone around her to think about what the role they serve in their community, because the story of this film is about the Fantastic Four ostensibly being parents to the world and to making these decisions that are very difficult for everyone else. And Sue is that for the team. She's the one helping to guide them to make the right decision and to think about things from both angles and not be too hot-headed and not be too neurotic. She's the one that I think guides this film. And so I would choose her, I think, as the main character of the movie, because I do think that she does the most. She does the most leading. Reed is the spokesperson, but I think she's the true leader of the team.
That's interesting. I don't know. I just try to think. I just try to think back to these sequences, and yeah, she perhaps stabilizes some of the disagreement, but I feel like more often than not, she is just like going along with the ideas that Reed has. And she, as I mentioned, she is like the inspiration for the teleporting the Earth thing.
Yeah.
Again, which is a plot point that I really like. I like that that's like
Yeah.
they plan that they decide to go with, and then subsequently they're like, why don't we just teleport Galactus?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that progression is neat. But like, yeah, she gives that speech, which I think it is a good call from you that like this film is about being a hero and like guiding the planet, guiding the people,
Mm-hmm.
etc. But I don't know. I just think back to these sequences. And I'm like, I don't know. Shouldn't she be like talking with Galactus? Like, she, especially if we set her up, she is like a world leader. She is like at the
Yeah. Yeah.
UN talking. But the sequence when we're arguing with Galactus, it's Reed doing that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's having contractions as that's happening. So narratively, I get it, but like I think that's also part of the reason why I see her as the leader or the main character of the film, because she's giving speeches to the UN. She's like on the news, like telling people here's what's gonna be, and Reed gets a couple of like talking to the press moments while she's holding a baby. But she's giving them much more like wide reaching. People seem to come to her for information, for news, for what's going on. And she's the talk of the town with the baby and all this stuff. And how's Sue doing? And when you mentioned that, like, yeah, she's the one that stabilizes the team, it's like, to me, that's leadership. And the fact that she's the one that's doing that, everyone else kind of feels like they're in their own world. The fact that she's the glue of the
Yeah,
team means that she's
I
the leader in my
understand.
mind.
I understand that, like from a script writing standpoint, that like she functionally, like especially she is like bouncing. She's going to Johnny's room. She's talking to Ben in front of the window. She's
Yeah.
going to Reed's laboratory. That like she is narratively like the glue that is combining all the disparate parts of the
Yeah.
film. But I think that takes away from like making her a rich character.
Sure.
I have the flimsiest idea of like what her deal is out of the four, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think that she ends up being the least interesting because her role does boil down to being a stabilizing agent,
Sure.
being like the mother of Franklin. And I think it's frankly disappointing that like she doesn't get any real pathos or things like that. At least not on her own. Like I mentioned, I think a lot of the drama comes out of the dynamic between her and Reed.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
Of which she is an important aspect of that. She is half of that
Yeah.
anyway. But yeah, I mean, like everyone else gets their own internal struggles and so on and so forth, and I feel like she doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's quickly talk about Galactics because you got to go to work.
Yeah, I gotta go. It's all right. We can keep going a little bit.
Okay. But Galactus,
Yeah,
they made fucking actual ass Galactus in this movie.
they did it. They made him.
Yeah, he's not a cloud anymore.
No.
He looks like real ass Galactus. He's got a big booming voice. He travels around in this ship that fucking sequence of the ship eating that planet is crazy style.
Mm-hmm.
that was amazing space imagery. And then them traveling around the inside of it and arriving at it and seeing how gigantic he is and towering over them. I thought Galactus, narratively, Galactus is a character that I've always felt is not my favorite because I'm like,
Sure.
they've had to like add layers to like his history and why he does this
Yes.
that they don't really bother to do in this movie. He is a force of the universe, and so he's not really a character in the same way as everyone else. And so I feel him as this intimidating presence and as obviously bringer of end times, and I do think the movie does a great job at that. I think that the dynamic between Galactus as a world-ending force, the Fantastic Four, and the people, I think is really interesting. Seeing them be like, "Oh, so how'd you defeat Galactus?" and we'd like, "We didn't." I really like that moment. Like,
I like
what
that
the
moment.
Fuck? Like,
Yeah.
does this mean we can trust them? Like, what does that mean for us? And obviously, having to sacrifice Franklin and like that making people feel weird about them. Like, I like these moments a lot. That are all ushered in by Galactus and his threat. But Galactus as Galactus is well utilized in this movie as a threat, as a presence, as a natural disaster, ostensibly.
Yeah.
But I've never been super sold on Galactus as a character, but he's not even really a character.
They sort of lean back on they sort of lean back on he's like a force of the universe or whatever. He doesn't have he eats the world because he must essentially,
Yes. Yeah.
and that's sort of like period end of sentence. So yeah, like. I mean, like the VFX look good, as people pointed out. Like the stuff of him walking through New York when we're doing like close up and like model work or whatever. Obviously, that's impressive. I like the moment where he's about to step over the threshold. He's like, up, 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 up. Hang on a second. There's no baby in there. But he also like wants to stop eating planets, which hey, I can respect.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to eat planets either. I wouldn't kidnap a baby to do so, but hey, that's just me, Galactus.
I don't know. I feel like I might.
Oh no!
No, I mean, like if I've been around for 1 billion years, and I'm tired of this shit. Like, what's one baby?
Well, you're gonna be on the side of the people of New York, being like, "Sacrifice your baby, Reed. What are you doing?"
I don't know, maybe.
I
mean, what do you feel about the baby thing? Because that is the thrust of this movie in terms of its drama. Is the idea of sacrificing one life for the life of, obviously dramatized up, an entire planet's worth of people, and especially as Reed and Sue as the parents, as far as the family members, this being something that really weighs on them emotionally as what choice do we make? And obviously they're able to find a way through, a narrow way through, to have things succeed. But yeah, the baby choice I thought was really, really bold, because I'm like, I don't know if that's something that's happened in the comics before, but I'm like, that is a really dark plot point for this otherwise very light movie. When Galactus mentions that, and that like immediately sent my mind like spinning of like, okay, so what does this mean? Like, how are they going to think about this? How are they going to work through this? I thought that was a really interesting choice to have that be sort of the drama of the movie.
Yeah, I don't mean to relitigate the whole like Sue character thing that we just did, but like I think that like Sue was obviously resolute in no, we're not going to do this, which is the correct position that the movie ends up taking, and it's also the same position that Ben and Johnny have, and then Reed has the thing of like, it is like ethically speaking, it is like the right thing to do if we're given the ultimatum, but then it's a comic book story. They find a way to weave through the ultimatum, which we already talked about. Okay. Anything else? I'll say, you know what? We don't need to get into this. We can if you want to. We can litigate this if you want to. I want more power stuff. I don't know if the powers are utilized especially interestingly. Reed barely does any like super stretchy stuff. Like he'll stretch his arm across the room or whatever, but then Galactus is like pulling on him. Is like, Reed should be able to stretch more than that. Come on now.
Yeah. They definitely tone down the powers for the drama of the film, and again, that's something that I praise the movie for. Because again, for me, these movies are about the people first and their powers second, and so the fact that they're actually not using their powers very much, especially because this movie does have such a heavy focus on this slice of life stuff. I mean, as I said, that's what I'm there for, and so that's fine by me. And as I realized, like, Reed isn't actually like casually he uses powers casually sometimes, but not like he's not like in the kitchen or like when he's like when he's in his lab he'll use it, but not like when he's around the house. Sue will use it for jokes occasionally. Johnny will use it for his powers for jokes occasionally, but I thought it was well balanced. Again, I think because I preferred the drama side of it, even though I thought the action was actually pretty solid. So I can definitely see that as a complaint, but I see in superhero stories, when I like them because of the drama, that the powers are the last resort. They want to be people first and foremost. They don't want people to see them as like the Fantastic Four are surprisingly humble for people that like the world like loves them, and they want to they kind of cringe at the cartoons and the comics of this stuff. Like,
they do.
They want people to trust them as people first and foremost, and trust each other as people first and foremost. And so the lessening of powers I see more as a creative decision on the side of the characters, not wanting that to be all people see them as. And maybe that's some fucking justification, but like I like that personally.
There's a balance you can strike. I mean, hey, did you know that The Incredibles is basically a Fantastic Four movie? Like, look at that stuff essentially.
They're using their powers way more in The Incredibles.
Exactly. And then like Sue doesn't really I don't know how much we want to get into this. Sue doesn't like make shields at all in this movie, which I just found interesting. That's like a staple of her like power set, but here she has like telekinesis basically.
Yeah, I mean it's
odd change. I would say
it's more of a visual change because if it was not solid, but like translucent blue like plates that she was pushing things with, I don't think you would think anything weird of it. But instead, it's like chromatic aberrations, which I think actually look really cool. There's like this little like there's like after she's done, there's still like wisps of it like hanging in the air, and so I'm like, oh, that's really an interesting visual effect.
That's neat.
I think it's just a visual choice. Like literally all the things that she was doing, if it was just like more solid blue, I think you'd be like, oh, she's using her force fields. They are force fields; they're just more clear.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just see her like grabbing Galactus and like spinning him around with her mind. It's like, oh, she's like got like telekinesis powers. But yeah, I guess at that point I was like, does Sue have like Green Lantern thing where she can like make things and then like you manipulate them in 3D space? I don't know. Let's talk about the post credit scenes. Let's get out.
Yeah.
First post credit scene. Guess who's here? Oh my God, it's fucking Doctor Doom.
No. It's his cape. It's his backwards. It's his cowl.
Oh, sorry. It's his cape. It's his cape and his mask. We see his cape and his mask. I think the direction to Doomsday is pretty clear here. He's gonna like kidnap Franklin, and then I was joking with my friends as we got to the theater. He's gonna like hold Franklin up by the head with his body dangling down, and be like, "Open a portal to Earth 616," and boy, his eyes are gonna light up. I'm like, not exactly that obviously, but I'm like, that is the direction we're going in. And then the Fantastic Four have to go to dimensional travel, etc., etc. Would you excited for Doom, baby? We don't see his face, obviously.
It's exactly what I thought was going to happen. I mean, I was not that interested in this post-credit scene. I'm like, yep.
Yeah, fair enough.
I thought maybe it would be more of a parallel to the Thunderbolts post-credit scene.
As did I. I thought it would be more direct.
I do think that setting up that the Fantastic Four, specifically in this movie, setting up that the Fantastic Four have to abandon this world that they care so much about and that cares so much about them, I think what is an interesting like tension point to leave this movie on, or would have been, as we've seen so much of what they've done in this universe up to this point. And also, obviously, that they're so willing to stick together as a family, including Franklin, that they would abandon, quote unquote, abandon their home universe to go find him, to go save him. I wanted to see that happen because I think what we'll then have to see in Doomsday is that scene of them realizing Doom has taken Franklin. What are we gonna do? There's such a high emotional stakes of them abandoning this universe, making that decision to go rescue their son. I think that's going to feel out of place in Doomsday. It creates an interesting because also is Doom going to destroy this universe? They're probably not going to go back to it.
There's gonna be an incursion, so they don't have to worry and fret about the world being destroyed. And also Galactus, they said, is he's 1 million years away or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, but yeah, I will be interested to see a little bit. But also Doomsday has some stuff going on in it.
Yeah, we'll see.
Perhaps it'll be lightly brushed upon, and then we have to go combine the Avengers teams or whatever.
Yeah, but to end on this looking forward point, Fantastic Four: First Steps and Thunderbolts, I think, are two of the strongest films in the recent MCU. And I also think that from a personality standpoint, a drama standpoint, a characterization standpoint, they're two of the groups of characters that I now care about the most. Most of the Avengers that I cared about are now gone. We don't even know what that team looks like. The Guardians team has totally shifted. Are we even going to see them again? I kind of doubt it. That they're shoehorning maybe in the old X-Men that I don't even really care about. It's going to be really interesting to see Doomsday, where now my two strongest touchstones, and I don't know if you agree or disagree with this, my two strongest touchstones going into that movie are the Thunderbolts and the Fantastic Four that were just introduced and are leading directly into this. And so I'm gonna be way more bored when I'm like, oh, brother, it's Jean Grey and Professor X from the fucking 2000s. Oh man,
hey, listen,
I'm like,
I'm not
give
gonna be
me
excited.
Ben, give me Elena.
Yeah, truthfully, Tucker, I'm in the same boat, just to a less enthusiastic degree,
Yeah.
because I will stand by, if we're talking about the recent output of the MCU, like Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are imperfect movies, pretty flawed films, as we've discussed in the subsequent the respective reviews for each of those films. But like, boy howdy, they are better than what we've been getting in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I will not doubt that. I will not deny that. From that standpoint, I'm going to end up giving, I think, a very similar score as I gave to Thunderbolts. I'm going to go 6.5 for Fantastic Four First Steps. I think it's a good movie. I just can't get over some of the hurdles that I feel are there. Some of these stumbling blocks that I keep running into when I think about this movie, and I probably will continue to think about it. It's something that I've wrestled with in my mind for the last 12 hours or so.
Whew, that's a long time, buddy. You okay?
I know.
You sweating?
It's tough to think about. Listen, I don't really gotta. Yeah. Tucker? What's your score?
I'm gonna go 9.3 out of 10.
Okay.
I think this is a remarkable film. I think it is the best produced Marvel movie in terms of its production quality. I think the cast is great across the board. I don't really think there's a weak link. I think it brings in some really interesting thematic implications. I think it serves a totally different role as a superhero movie, and it's also just so focused. There's not extraneous plot lines. Again, it's on its own universe, so it doesn't have to deal with all the previous horse shit. It feels confident and distinct and bold, and so I was just really, really blown away by it. Oh, and also Tanner, I mean, Michael Giacchino, I think, made maybe the best MCU score.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
just a slam dunk from this guy. Absolutely.
God, it's so fucking good. God, it's so fucking good.
Good stuff.
I was really blown away by it, and I'll be seeing it again tonight. Thank you, everyone, for checking in here on our review of Fantastic Four First Steps. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you thought a little bit about this movie, and we'll see you next time.